I like the Josh McDaniels hire. I don't like the Patriots DC hire, which happened yesterday as well. Terrell Williams of the Detroit Lions comes in from being the defensive line coach with the Lions to now being the defensive coordinator for the Patriots. And he's someone who served 5 years under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, both as the defensive line coach and the assistant head coach. But immediately what jumps off the page at me is defensive line coach, which might have been the biggest issue with DeMarcus Covington this year. Defensive line coaches, you don't go from defensive line coach to defensive coordinator in this league. Only the Patriots do that. And it's been laid out several times throughout this season with DeMarcus Covington, because guys who only coach the defensive line, they don't understand coverages. Usually, like, work your way out to the back. Defensive backs coaches or linebackers coaches become DCs all the time, specifically linebackers coaches, right? And one of the problems that DeMarcus Covington had was he clearly didn't understand coverages well enough. The Patriots were awful in pass coverage because you got a guy coming from the defensive line. And weirdly enough, when you compare the two resumes in terms of positional versatility, not stops that they've been to, because that's a different thing, but in terms of what positions they've coached, DeMarcus Covington has more versatility in his 1 year as the outside linebackers coach with the Patriots. But other than that, defensive grad assistant, defensive line, coaching assistant, outside linebacker, defensive line to defensive coordinator. That's not really the path. And yet I look at Terrell Williams, defensive line, 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 assistant head coach, defensive line, run game coordinator, defensive coordinator. Tell me how that adds up. The guy's been coaching nothing but defensive lines for 25 years, exclusively defensive lines. And you want him to run the entire defense after you got gashed in the pass game all year. Good luck with that. If the McDaniels thing is strictly a Crafts hire instead of being a Vrabel hire, maybe that was the right decision, because Vrabel picks a guy he got from Tennessee who's coached nothing but the defensive line. In fact, in his time in Tennessee, of which Terrell Williams overlapped Mike Vrabel's entire time with the Titans, and in Vrabel's tenure in Tennessee, he hired 2 different defensive coordinators. And he didn't hire Terrell Williams either time. He hired Dean Pease and some other schmo, neither of whom had coached the defensive line in their career. And now this guy's good enough. Which, look, that's fine. That was 6 years ago. Maybe he is, or 4 years ago. 5 years ago, whatever the fuck it was. It's 5 years ago. That's fine. Maybe he's different now. But you just had this issue with this team. Right? Like this is a carbon copy of 2024. If you want to believe that the Crafts forced through the McDaniels hire. Personally, I think Vrabel had a big part of that. I don't think Vrabel's coming here and they tell him, hey, you can't hire the OC. I don't think that's part of it. But let's just play that out for argument's sake. That the Crafts forced in McDaniels as the OC. Vrabel, the head coach, picks one of his guys at DC who would only coach the defensive line. In that case, it's no different from 12 months ago when Gerard Mayo becomes the head coach. The ownership and Elliott Wolf hire the OC, and they say, hey, you can make one of your guys DC, and he hires a guy who had never been a defensive coordinator, who had only been a defensive line coach. And look what happened. And yet there's no pushback on this from the Boston sports media today. No pushback. Oh, yeah, Terrell Williams, sure. But here's how bad the Josh McDaniels hire is, XYZ. They don't care about the Terrell Williams hire. They just want to tell you how bad the former Patriots guy is. Because to them, that's a story. But this is not, in my opinion, an expert hire. I will give Terrell Williams this benefit of the doubt. The Lions were 23rd in sacks in 2023. In 2024, they were also 23rd in sacks. They only had 4 less sacks in 2024 than they did in 2023. Which, I mean, those numbers are still mediocre, but in 2024, you didn't have the former number 1 pick and one of the great pass rushers in the game in Aiden Hutchinson. and their production was largely the same. You can see that as a good thing. You can see that as a bad thing. But he was also the run game coordinator for the Lions this year, who gave up more yards per carry than the Patriots did. And the Patriots are widely regarded as one of the worst rush defenses in the league this year. All the numbers point to that. And this Lions team gave up more yards per carry and couldn't do anything with Jaden Daniels and gave up 45 points just last week at home in a playoff game to a rookie quarterback. That's what we were waiting on. That's the guy we were waiting on to come and save this Patriots defense. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, this sounds a lot like hiring DeMarcus Covington. But he was Vrabel's assistant head coach in Tennessee. Didn't quite respect him enough to make him the DC. Passed over him twice for the defensive coordinator job in Tennessee. Didn't respect him enough for that, but he was the assistant head coach. Whatever that means. Like, genuinely, whatever that means. In charge of how many timeouts you have? Like the JV basketball coach during the varsity game? That to me is a sneaky, just not good hire. Uninspiring hire. I think the Josh McDaniels one is way better than that. And to be totally honest with you guys, I don't know what the short list was for defensive coordinator, but bare minimum, when you don't know these candidates coming in, you would think, all right, let's see. Top is wanting someone who's been a defensive coordinator before. Maybe someone who's been a head coach and defensive coordinator before. Maybe someone who is a up and coming guy on someone's defense, coaching the linebackers or coaching the secondary. Instead, you didn't get any of that. You got a defense that really sucked towards the end of this season, including the playoffs, especially the playoffs. And a guy who's not been a defensive coordinator and has only coached one position group in his whole career. 25 years of coaching one position group. And you're going to have him run the whole defense. Oof. I don't see it. I really don't see it.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.